Good afternoon, all you awesome people out there. My name is Scott Schertzen, alongside Mr. Brandon K. We got JD and Sammy D today, and this is the Sports Den on Streampunk Entertainment and Zingo TV, channel 249, 250, part of Spanglish World Network. Zingo TV, by the way, is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. When you download, make sure to rate and leave a comment. The app at the end of the day is free. Gentlemen, we're going to be talking a lot of stuff that happens to rhyme when it comes to New York sports today. We're going to be talking a little bit of Jets, a little bit of Mets, maybe a little bit of Nets if we have time, and basically whatever you have in the area of frets. But let's start this off. Yeah, my wordplay is terrible. I'm sorry.
I thought it was clever.
All of it soaked in pain.
I watched too much Who's Line. Anyway, welcome into this case here, Mr. Sammy D, ardent Jets and Mets fan, so we'll be focusing a lot of attention on that. But you guys, how you guys doing as always?
Yeah, despite our two teams' immediate situations, Jets more of immediate. Mets was just a crap last night. That happens. But overall, we're doing all right.
Good. So, like I said, we're kicking things off right now. You guys are, of course, longtime Jets fans, for better or for possibly very likely worse. Word has come down into the grapevine that there is a bone bruise when it comes to Mr. Zach Wilson. So in this case, there's some massive concerns about what's going to happen with the Jets in a season that initially had a good deal of excitement to it. So I'm going to start this off. Sammy, give me your thoughts on this. Give me how you're feeling. Are you okay? Will you be okay with this? What do you think the team is going to be like? And additionally, what do you think is going to happen when it comes to Zach Wilson's career?
Well, and thank you for inviting me to this nice coffee spot with all of you. I just saw notification that he had successful knee surgery. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't worse than they anticipated. So they're saying the 2 to 4 week mark. I think I was in agreement before you guys mentioned it. I don't think he should start that first week. I think they just let Flacco start and go from there. They've done a lot of improvements to the whole team on the defensive side, on the offense, on the O-line, receivers, tight end, running backs, you name it. But at the end of the day, the question mark is still with the quarterback.
Sure.
And this is the second injury in 2 years. It's an injury on the same knee for 2 years. We're lucky that it's not on the on the knee that he has to put a lot of pressure on when he throws, because it's the right knee versus the left. So right now it's a big question mark. I don't know what we have in Zach Wilson. We don't know. He did okay last year at the end of the year, but they also probably adjusted the offense for him. He didn't have interceptions. It was a weaker division team, weaker teams that they played against. Now he's facing, this year he's facing Steelers and Cleveland, early in the year. And then, this first half of the year is going to be a nightmare. So him not getting these reps and not even doing anything else, now he has to rehab the knee. Unfortunately, we're going to have to rely on Joe Flacco before he gets hurt, and then Mike White before hopefully he doesn't get hurt. We improved on the O-line by getting the guy who used to be with Seattle, Dwayne Brown. And they made the smart move of moving him to left, and not, that's what he's been his whole career. Leave him at left tackle. Font, I know they talk about Font. He didn't play well when he played on the right side, but the whole O-line didn't play well because he started on the gate. So I can't really penalize him on that. That's a combination of bad O-line, bad coaching. So I'm more trustworthy of the coaching staff now and the O-line coach that he'll be able to transition back to the right side. So right now I just have a big question mark. That's the biggest thing. The question mark is with him. Who is Zach Wilson other than being, what we know, a player in the other sense of the word. But is he a player for the New York Jets?
You know what? That's going to be a question I'm going to throw over to Brandon in this particular case. You obviously, you're a little more.
Why is that directed at me?
Because you know what? You've been quiet so far. I'm going to throw it right at you right now because I want to basically
making me look guilty of things.
Oh, you are. No. But no. In all seriousness, right now,
you are the youngest one here. Just saying.
There we go. We're gonna go with that one. Your youngest one here. Talk to me about what's going to happen here. I mean, when you look at Zach Wilson, do you see his career being able to recover from this? And do you see the Jets being able to recover from this?
Yeah, I don't want Jets fans or just football fans in general to really blow this out of proportion. Like we hear the reports of successful surgery. Initially, right from the beginning, it was 2 to 4 weeks. And I had said on Sunday on our other show, give it the DeGrom treatment, give it extra time, give it another 2 weeks, even 3. We saw this thing, Joe Flacco, probable week 1 until Wilson is quote unquote fully ready. Give him another 2 weeks. Give him another 3 weeks. I thought maybe he'd come back week 3 against Cincinnati. I maybe even push that to week 4. Give it those first 3 weeks. The reps and the experience with first team and all that's another situation. You can't even approach that without making sure your health is fully intact. So I think you have to make sure that is as good as gold, and then you get back to the actual football part of it. And look, he's not a rookie. Yes, he is very, very young. He is kind of in that rookie kind of age, very young. But I get that a lot of fans are split on the drafting of Zach Wilson, the whole rookie year, even bringing him back for the second year, which, I mean, you knew they were going to do that regardless. And I was a proponent of keeping Sam Darnold. You guys know I love Sam more than anybody on the planet. I really do. But no, we are in the situation that we are now. We have Zach Wilson. I think there is something with him, but we got to get the health first, and the football and stuff will play out afterwards. But I like what the Jets have done around Zach to make him feel comfortable, to give him every chance to succeed. Weapons, protection, a defense, all of it, coaching, new general management. So they are, Scott, we said, a couple of weeks ago, I think they are, Jets and Giants kind of in the same boat, but we are moving into more calm waters, I think. The Zach Wilson thing, yes, is a little bit of a hiccup, but it's not something that really derails any plan that the Jets have moving forward. So, that this first quarter of the season, really keep it chill, make sure he's got his legs and knees underneath him, and then you'll move forward with the rest of the season afterwards. Obviously having a guy in Joe Flacco who's as experienced as it gets with quarterbacks now. Mike White, we saw the Mike effing White last year in that kind of that Bengals game. But, again, I'm hopeful. I'm not really too thrown off by this. In past years, I might have been. But I really think this is just a very, very small blip in what could be hopefully a good season.
And does that feel weird to you? Yeah, go ahead. Good.
Weirdly. Yeah, like almost suspicious. Like I don't. It's like almost too good to be true, kind of a deal. Nope. But we'll see. I know, JD, you're Mr. Optimism over there.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Sam, you want to go? You had something to say?
My only concern is, like I said before, totally agree with everything, but he's been injury prone since college. Unfortunately we have a history with our quarterbacks that everyone gets hurt. Whether it was Joe, whether it was Sam, whether it was Mark Sanchez for the stupid Snoopy Bowl, whether it was Geno Smith, although that was self-inflicted. It's our bad luck. I think Chad with Chad, who I thought was one of
you're trying to take this back in time now.
So I'm just that's why
I'm going to need something stronger in this cup if we're going to keep going down this road.
You're going to go.
I've been there. I've seen through all of that, and that's the only concern, or it's the curse that we have, is with the quarterbacks getting hurt, and it's been 2 years in a row now, and it's just concerning.
The reason for that, and Sammy can back me up on this, since I'm at the NFL draft party with him every year, aside from the COVID years, of course. But every single year, I say the Jets need to address the offensive line, and they never do. And when they try, they draft a lazy 400-pound guy with bad knees who can't stay on the field. This is typical for the Jets. I said it again this year. I mean, the problem was that the Jets have, going into this past year's draft, they had more holes than they had draft picks to fill. It was, you need wide receiver, cornerback, you need playmakers on offense, and they needed line help. They addressed everything aside from the line help. They took Vera Tucker last year, which was great. Becton turns out to be another bust. And while the offensive line has improved, it's still one or two injuries away from being a complete mess again. Mm-hmm. That's why ever since Mangold and Ferguson, the anchors of the line for years, who were arguably Hall of Famers, both of them, the Jets have not been able to get the line together since then. They draft quarterback after quarterback, and they keep getting injured. 2015, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, was the last time that the Jets had a quarterback who stayed healthy for all 16 games. And that was only because of the, as Sammy mentioned, the Geno Smith incident in training camp that season, where he was, IK punched him allegedly over, unpaid gambling debts or something stupid that it was. But just this is the kind of garbage. I said on I'll never forget, it was my first episode of Sports Den, was right before the 2021 draft. I said I have zero confidence in the Jets being able to develop Zach Wilson into a competent quarterback, because the Jets never do. And it's not looking good right now. The other issue, aside from the Jets not being able to keep quarterbacks upright, is the fact that last year, the Jets went through 4 quarterbacks. All of them played better in that offense than Wilson did during the time they were on the field, including Josh Johnson, who's been with every single football league, past and present, over the past 10 years, including all the different variations of spring leagues. He looked better than Wilson last year. Yes, Wilson was a rookie. I'm willing to give him a pass. But this is not starting out. What do we get from starting Joe Flacco? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Are they afraid of throwing Mike White out there and he plays better again and makes them all look like fools? I'm wondering about this. Yes, Flacco is okay to have as mentorship and cannon fodder if the line does prove to be as bad as it is. I would, at the very least, hold Wilson to week 4. I don't want to bring him back in that week 3 game against Cincinnati. And just this team, once again, I have a hard time staying excited. I've been burned too many times. They're more focused on stupid slogans and selling T-shirts with all gas, no break on it than they are on fixing the offense. The defense has improved this year, so that will hopefully keep the offense, because one of the biggest issues was the offense being on the field being 3 and out so many times. And you had a defense that was stretched too thin. It's just
good.
Yeah, I really, they're lucky, and Wilson is lucky that they were spared the worst, being a torn ACL. But the second injury to that same knee, as Sammy said, is a cause for concern. And it also serves as a built-in excuse when the Jets failed to live up to expectations this year. Oh, we have a young quarterback. He didn't get enough practice reps because he was hurt and that will be an ongoing excuse used throughout the season. Just, we're going to do this again. Maybe he makes a jump in year 3, or we're just gonna wash and repeat through quarterbacks every few years.
Which actually is the good. I'm sorry.
It's a good economic move. So better than overpaying for a bad quarterback, as a few teams have done.
So let me ask you this question for all 3 of you in this particular case. Suppose Wilson has a bad year, injured or on the field. It doesn't matter. In this case, obviously obligatory butt fumble reference. Thank you very much. Although I'm sorry, but here's the thing. As a Giants fan, suicide sneak is worse. Butt fumble was an accident. Suicide sneak was deliberate. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry that you guys at least get a pass on that. It ended up, yeah,
The fumble was worse in the 70s.
Mark probably could have taken a step to the side. I mean, I don't know what he was looking at, but it's again.
But here's the thing: butt fumble is more famous and will always be more famous. But at least it was a play that went south and ended badly. It wasn't you giving up on your own 4-yard line in the second quarter.
Wait, I got a question though about butt fumble though. Before we move on to your question,
Okay.
Scott.
Okay.
If it weren't the Thanksgiving game and it was just a regular Sunday game, is it as big a deal as it still is?
Absolutely not.
Right.
It's still a big deal because any play that is easily made into a GIF, as easily as that play was, is going to have staying power. But the fact that it was on Thanksgiving made it, and everybody saw it, made it so much worse.
And against your division rival, and it ended up in as a touchdown. And it was the personification of, I think, all Jet frustration. I mean,
nevertheless, made up for in the playoffs later that year.
That is true. However, nobody remembers that. They remember butt fumble.
Well, we do.
Well, yeah, I know, but
that wasn't the same year as
no, it wasn't.
No, butt fumble was 20. Was 20.
It was the year after.
Well,
it was the bad years.
It was the year after.
Yeah. I believe. Yeah, and then the week after that, I believe was
the game when they lost 45-3. That, and then they made up in the playoffs. Okay, yeah.
The Pete Carroll Super Bowl special. Is he talking about the pass play instead of handing it to Marshawn Lynch?
Yes, probably. That would be my guess.
Against the Pat. Yeah, okay. It's one of those plays that I think if it works, you look like a genius. If it fails, you look like an idiot. But I don't know. I still have to go with butt fumble as the more famous bad play of all time. Now, my question to you guys in this case here is, if Zach Wilson has a bad season, injury on the field, doesn't matter. Either way, do you see the Jets actually going and getting a new quarterback this year?
Probably not.
No, you can't.
I would say, depending on where they're in the position and in the standings, how they end the season, and if Zach doesn't do his job, and they had the tools around him, and if the next draft class, which they say is much better than the draft class from this year, times have changed regarding this. I mean, now we have the example of what they did with Kyler Murray. So there's that precedent now, and
what did they do with Kyler Murray?
I wouldn't get it past them to do it.
Okay.
If he has when I say bad year, I mean a bad year.
Yeah,
interceptions like that. He caused them to lose games. Not that the defense played bad. No, if he caused them to lose games, I wouldn't be surprised. And if they're top 10 or top 15 in the draft again, I wouldn't be surprised.
If it goes that badly, I want a new GM other than Joe Douglas making that pick, because I all this talk about how he's such a wonderful at managing the cap and drafting. I've yet to see any results from this. The 2021 draft looks okay, with Wilson being the question mark. But if Wilson is a bust, especially after his entire 2020 draft was looking like busts, and the Jets need to hit the reset button again. They need to hit the full reset button.
Here's the thing: the Jets.
I'm talking if it's completely bottom out, if they end up with like a top 5 pick, and they clearly regress this year. That's worst case scenario. But I don't. Hopefully, it doesn't get to that point. But with anything with the Jets, I wouldn't be surprised if it.
So then it comes down to you either trust, even if he has a terrible season, you either trust the current structure to just one more year, or you're worried about these hypotheticals and another quarterback coming in, and it's just we're back to square one, back to square zero even. And I just don't know how sensible that is.
It isn't. And also, sorry.
I don't see any of these college quarterbacks, this Bryce Love or any of these really being, coming into, the Jets situation and being better than what Zach Wilson, and I said that with Sam Darnold, is this Zach or, Mac or whoever Trey Lance, whoever, is he going to come in and be better than what Sam can do currently as a third or fourth year? At a certain point, you have to stick to a commitment. Unless this is not a bunch of random backup quarterbacks that you think you have the guy, go for it. Run it till the end, and then if it's nothing, then go draft somebody or trade or do whatever. But you can't cut things premature just because there are certain hiccups. You have to get over hiccups. You have to overcome certain bumps in the road, because if you can't do that here, you're not doing it in the playoffs. Before you're not even getting to the playoffs, you're not going to do it in the playoffs. You're not going to do it against in championship games or the Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. So I think at a certain point, you really have to stick to the Zach Wilson commitment. And we're still in the very beginning of year 2. We have
they really don't have to make a decision economically until year 3, just like they did with Sam Darnold, where I think that they would have kept Sam for year 4 if they didn't have the number 2 overall pick and Wilson sitting there ready to go, because that was as much of an economic decision as it was a football one. So with Wilson still on his rookie deal and not having to make a decision on the year 5 option or possible extension until after year 3, the Jets have one more year after this. So unless it is, number 1 pick, worst team in the league, worst case scenario, I do think that they do try again with Wilson for another year, because they don't have to make that decision yet. But if it's another year like last year, or with slight improvement for the team, then I do think that they do stick with Wilson for one more year, because they don't have to make a decision yet.
They would get rid of Saleh before they did Wilson.
Probably. You're looking at a team right now that since 2017 has not only been in the league in points and wins as well, but also worst in the league in first downs and also third down percentage. So this team across the board has been struggling in so many different ways beyond the quarterback position that you can't put it all on Wilson. However, having said that, This is also an impatient league. It's about ticket sales. It's about jersey sales. If Wilson, they will pull in someone else to give that renewed hope, because it generates ticket sales and makes money. And it's all about money now versus basically success later in some cases.
No quarterback can be successful behind a bad offensive line. As long as the Jets continue to screw things up in that area, then they won't develop a successful quarterback, and they're just going to keep running through this over. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results.
But a good O-line
only Russell Wilson
sell tickets and jerseys.
Line.
Oh, and Joe Burrow last year.
But see,
so it happens sometimes, but sometimes the talent overtakes the other stuff, and that's the issue. Does Zach Wilson have that talent? We know Russell has it. We know Joe Burrow, Joe Cool with the cigar has it, with the fur coat. He did it. We don't know yet with Zach, and I know we haven't given him the opportunity. He's been hurt, but can he overcome that? That's the question. Now they built like JD mentioned. We talked about before about the drafts, and I wholeheartedly agree with him about drafting O-line. But I've always had the discussion with him that what killed us last year was what we were saying is that defense was horrible.
Yeah.
The defense was horrible. So you're putting a rookie down by 21 points, 14 points each time to try to make a comeback. And wasn't feasible. It wasn't possible. You're never going to do that. So I understand why they put all their eggs this year in the draft of getting Sauce. Wait, I'm sorry. We can't call him Sauce yet. We put, the 2 defensive ends that we got, Clemens and Johnson. So they're building it on that side. Then with the signings of Alexander, and the guy, the cornerback from Seattle, the safety from Tampa Bay. So they built that side. So now there shouldn't be excuses as to what he can and can't do, because now they built that defense how it should be. And they've shown it already in practice and in the first preseason game, they could do a good job. Now it's a matter of, okay, can we build a lead now and the defense hold it? But at the same time, let's see what he has. I agree. I agree with starting him later than third or fourth game. But then after that, it's all on him. It's all on him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not to mention the weapons they drafted for him.
Yeah. And I'm saying in this case,
Wilson,
here that Jets brass are not
and Ruckert and running back. I mean, those were all top prospects at those positions, and they were able to draft them. They were able, and like Johnson fell back in the draft, and you were able to get him. So they made the moves. They brought in the pieces, put the puzzle together now, and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. They definitely have shown signs of improvement and signs of some kind of hope. Just, as a long-suffering Jets fan, I don't have any confidence that they'll be able to get it done. But 6 or 7 wins, I'll take it.
Agree.
I
don't have high expectations of. I know there's a lot of fans and people in the radio that are talking about, if they don't win 10 games, it's a failure. I'm like,
10 games.
Let's jump from 3 to
6.
6.
Games. Try 7.
Whoa.
I'm happy with 7 and 8. Let's get there first.
Yeah.
And now with this injury, it's very doubtful we get to 10 wins.
And the schedule.
And the schedule. So the first half of the season, the schedule is tough. So I'm happy with 7-8 games for now. If we can get there, then we're going in the right direction.
All right. So at least something where you're hovering by like week 10 or 11, you still have a degree of hope then.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at this point, basically, we can focus our attention a little bit more onto a team that might be a little bit better for you guys. Your New York Mets. What are you thinking about the Mets so far? You think they're doing better? How do you feel as a possibly vindicated Mets fan?
Cautiously optimistic.
I'm a little past cautiously optimistic. I'm like, I don't know, aware and optimistic. But like, I mean, last night was, again, that's just, they didn't have it that night. Cookie got hurt. It was just one of those nights. I mean, we're halfway through August already. And, at some point, like, we really need to start, like, talking and thinking about this. Like we were talking about this before. There's Phillies, Yankees, and Braves are really our 3 teams. We're in the middle of these Braves series now, but those are the 3 teams that we should, if we're going to be able to, let's say, let's restart. September, they have one of the easiest schedules in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
If you can, like we were talking about, keep your head above water, at least go 500 for the rest of the year against Yankees, Braves, Phillies, maybe 1 or 2 games above, you're really looking at something here. Because you have Washington, Miami, Pittsburgh, the Cubs, the Brewers are decent. But September, man, you could really, forgetting the games in the division, to really put the division away, that September, you can really set yourself apart as an absolute force in the National League. I understand the Dodgers and the Mets right now really have all year been the top 2 teams, but like you can really scare a lot of people. Yeah, they are, and we can get them. Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they've reversed roles this year. Come on, give us your salty Yankee fan tears, Scott.
I have one. Because honestly, listen, I've been waiting as a Yankee fan since 1994, I guess we'll say it in this case. I've been following this team, and I have seen this before. I saw this kind of a team in 2005, 2006, where they just had big money thrown all around and ultimately ended nowhere. This team is like that, but cheaper. This is not George's team. This is Hal's team. And Hal is not afraid to basically not spend money what is necessary. And when you look at a team like this, And you see the general implosion that has happened. I think right now they have a 333 win percentage, since the All-Star break. They're still 10 games in front. They're not going to lose the division, I think. But you see them losing game after game and badly. They've been shut out 2 games in a row, one of which was at home. They haven't scored more than 3 runs, I think, in like 5 games now. So there is massive concerns on the offensive side. Garrett Cole, here's the thing. I am not a Garrett Cole fan. I've not been a fan of him. I've not been a fan of that contract or any of the stuff that's happened. Spider Tack, allegedly.
Spider-Man. What are you talking about?
Exactly. But they did him wrong yesterday. He gave up 1 earned run in there. And because Aaron Hicks lost track of the ball and gave up a routine fly ball that became a triple, that became the only run, at that point. Eventually, the game opened up, later on in the 9th inning. But he gave up 1 earned run and took that loss because Aaron Hicks couldn't catch a fly ball. This is what the team is.
Welcome to DeGrom's world, his first few years with the Mets.
Yeah.
Except here's the difference. The Mets have a manager, and Brandon, you and I talked about this on Sunday. The Mets have a manager that the Yankees should have gotten.
Bingo.
You have a manager right there. In Buck Showalter is that old school guy, but he's an old school guy with a better personality, I think, than Joe Girardi had. They're both old school, but Girardi rubs people the wrong way, as he did, in Miami, as he did in New York, as he did in Philly. Buck Showalter is just that nice guy that just the man has to get to a freaking World Series once in his freaking life. Oh my God, the poor guy.
So let me say something about you were mentioning what my thoughts are, and the first thing is in Buck we trust.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
This is the best manager that the Mets have had since back when we had Bobby Valentine.
Okay.
Hands down.
Mm-hmm.
He has, and on the flip side with the GM, the decisions they made of some of the guys that they brought in, they were perfect for that culture.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yes, we've had some hiccups the last few days with Guillorme, and now I just read Carrasco will be out 3 to 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, they learn. They've got depth, so they're able to put somebody in. The lefty back in there, and if he has to do 3 or 4 weeks, he's the 5th starter. I don't worry about that too much. With Guillorme, I don't worry too much because I just saw that they promoted Beatty.
Mm-hmm.
Beatty's going to play.
Did. About time.
Yes, they promoted. They just promoted him, so they're pulling up what the Braves are doing. They're bringing up the talent. Let's see what you got. And they can see what he has, and get him ready, get that experience, put him right in the fire with the Braves, the Phils, and the Yanks, and just do that. And the difference with with what's happening with the Yankees is we have 2 starters that are just out of this world.
Mm-hmm.
I still pinch myself to this day of how the hell we got Max Scherzer.
Yeah,
I know it was money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it was money. But I always tell my cousins, and we're all Met fans. We're like, I still pinch myself when I watch him. That is he actually with the Mets? He was the savior, and now him resting those 6 weeks that he was out, and with DeGrom rested for half a year, and then even with Cookie Carrasco, this is actually a blessing in disguise.
Yeah.
Because
he can rest up while Bassett and the rest can go. Yeah.
Because it helps because he hasn't pitched more than 100 innings in each of the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll probably need a break for the September run and October run with his experience. So this is kind of like a blessing in disguise. Him, you don't want anybody to get hurt, but it actually helps him. He said that this is the first time he's ever felt an injury like this, which is an oblique. So that takes a while. So get him in September or at the end of September. We got the 2 other guys that are, we got the lefty and we got Tyler McGill, who's going to come back in September too.
Now, see, here's the if we're thinking, I want to ask you this: if we're thinking October in this case, you got DeGrom, Scherzer, obviously. Then you have the option of Walker, Bassett, Carrasco. I might be missing a guy in there too, but in a 3 or 4 pitcher start setup there, you got 5 qualified starters. Not to mention, and this is the quiet.
And Peterson coming out of the bullpen.
And who's that?
And then you'd have Peterson, who is their 5-6 starter. He'll be out of the bullpen.
And here's the thing that nobody's talking about here. And this is a very, very quiet thing when it comes to the Mets. Since the All-Star break, the Mets have the second best batting average in Major League Baseball. Second only to the Dodgers, right? They have a 281 batting average since the All-Star break. So they're doing it on both sides of the ball. You talked about yesterday, Brandon, we talked about this too. Every team wins 50 and loses 50. It's those 62 that remain that's left over where all the difference is made, and the fact that they are as strong as they are on both sides, they have a healthy but not insane lead. And the one thing I disagree with you a little bit on something here. You talked about the fact that this is remind you of Bobby Valentine. It doesn't remind me of that team because of the fact that Bobby Valentine and Steve Phillips hated each other. The Mets are in perfect alignment. Top to bottom, everybody is in complete alignment. You don't have that animosity. I mean, Phillips.
I was just looking at it from just a manager perspective, manager. But you're right. That was a toxic environment between him and Steve Phillips.
This reminds me more of 2006, where the team that was very hyped up going into this season and had a good mix of young up-and-comers and free agent mercenaries. The roster construction is very similar. This year, we have Scherzer playing the role of Tom Glavine. Because that team had Tom Glavine, Pedro Martinez, Carlos Delgado. You had an up-and-coming Wright and Reyes.
Mike Kramer at that point.
Beltran.
Cliff Floyd.
Cliff Floyd, who was also a big mentor for Wright and was a key locker room guy that season. It's a similar roster makeup that the Mets have this year, and it's so far, it's so far living up to expectations. And assuming that they stay on this track, win the NL East and get that 2 seed and first round bye. That's still weird to say that, but
that's the scenario we want.
Yes, that's the scenario we want. Especially, what is key is that with the new playoff format, with the top 2 byes, is that unlike the NFL, they're not reseeded after the first round. So the Mets in that 2 slot will be playing whoever wins the 3-6 series between teams that would be the NL Central champ and that last wild card, which would currently be the Phillies. You leave the Braves and Padres to beat each other up in the other first round game, and then between the Braves, the Padres, and the Dodgers, the Mets would only need to play one of those teams because they will all be beating each other up on the other side of the bracket. And then the Mets would face
either St. Louis or Milwaukee.
Right. They would face St. Louis, Milwaukee, or the Phillies as things currently hold. Considering that the Phillies scored fewer runs in 3 games than the Philadelphia Union did in 1 game Saturday night, then I think that while the Mets-Phillies rivalry is alive, it's not at the level that it was 10, 15 years ago. But there is still something there, especially with the added spice of Thor turning heel and ending up on the Phillies,
which is odd.
It's odd, but I personally get a kick out of how he manages to accidentally pass by his spot, miss his spot in the rotation every time his teams, the Angels and Phillies this year, end up playing the Mets.
But JD, he won't hide this weekend. He's going to have to pitch against them because he pitched yesterday. So he can't hide.
Now, where's that game being played?
Oh, they're playing in Philly.
Philly.
Here's my question in this case here, because Syndergaard was pretty well beloved with that team, but he was also very, very salty when he went to Anaheim. And my question is, when he comes back and eventually pitches in New York, what kind of reception do you think he's going to get?
Booze.
Not a very good one.
Well, believe it or not, I read that
slightly mixed, but mostly booze.
Yeah. Last weekend they actually did, which I was surprised they did it, but they actually did a video thing for him at Citi Field, honoring him. Nobody's mentioned it, but they did it. He didn't pitch, but they actually did a montage for him.
That's nice.
Which is probably just 2 videos. The one when he almost hit the guy from KC in the World Series, and the home run, and him running after the Philly Fanatic, the 2 homers, yeah, and running after the Philly Fanatic. Other than that, I don't know what else.
He was a little bit divisive, especially with media, but it doesn't bother me.
He's not Hardy without the drugs.
Yeah.
But JD and Scott, I do say one thing. If it's today right now, I have more worry with the Phillies than Atlanta, and I'll tell you why. Yes, we beat them this weekend, but Wheeler and Nola are 2 damn good pitchers.
Yeah,
we just got them that weekend.
That's first series.
Yep. It could switch around in the next series because Wheeler's that good. They're good. So they have top 2 that could go against DeGrom and Scherzer in a short series, number 1. Number 2, Harper's going to come back. Number 3, they didn't have and Schober didn't play the whole weekend. So, yes, we did a good job against Philly. But if you tell me in September, if they have that whole team, they added the reliever, I have more worry in a short series against them versus Atlanta, because I don't think Atlanta's pitching is as good, top 2 against either the Mets or the Phillies. Yes, they hit home runs, but they also strike out. They lead the world in home runs, but they also lead the world in strikeouts. And you saw how DeGrom and Scherzer neutralized them. They couldn't do anything. Like Pedro once said, yeah, they were my daddy. They didn't admit it, but it was a fact.
God, I forgot about that line.
Yeah.
But I guess, I mean, overall, I see your point there. I don't think anybody right now is afraid of San Diego, though. The Padres right now are just, especially at losing Tatis like they did for 80 games. You got Soto, which obviously that wins in this case. Brandon, we talked about this, I think, before the show, right? Joey Gallo leads the world in strikeouts.
Yeah, we had mentioned it before. I had brought up a stat that I had heard today. Last night, Joey Gallo struck out for 1,000 for the 1,001 time in about a little less than 2,200 at bats, which is roughly 50% of the time. He had recently passed Brooks Robinson, Hall of Famer Brooks Robinson, who had struck out a total of 990 times in over 10,000 at-bats. So, even if Joey Gallo played another decade and a half and had almost 8,500 more at-bats without striking out once, he would still have a worse strikeout rate than Brooks Robinson.
Wow.
And Brooks Robinson got that amount of strikeouts, and I think he played like 21 years.
Right.
And Gallo's played, what, 5? 6?
6 at the end of the year, I think, yeah.
All-time record, we knew this, but it belongs to Reggie Jackson at 25.97. That was in 11,000 plate appearances.
I didn't realize. I didn't realize Reggie still had that record. I thought with how much everybody strikes out that somebody had passed him.
They haven't gotten there yet, but somebody will overtake it at some point. But remember, the whole strikeout era has only happened in the last few years. So, but Gallo, like I said, I felt bad for him in New York. He said something, actually. He asked about how the fans are treating him in New York. He's like, I don't know. I don't leave my apartment. I don't go outside right now. And that made me feel bad for the dude. It really did.
I feel for players like that. They just where they don't even want to go out in public. It's so bad.
Yeah.
So we're talking about that, and you mentioned Gallo. I remember Whitson. I remember
Chris Carter,
Randy Johnson. Try to refresh my memory. Who on the Mets side had that experience?
Jason Day.
Jason Bay,
yeah.
yes.
Jason Bay, yeah.
Okay. They paid a lot of money for that guy too.
Jason Bay.
Depending on how far back you go, maybe George Foster towards the end.
He was old.
Yeah, and here's the thing: George Foster also, that was in a different era too. That was much more of a contact-driven league.
Oh, and I forgot the guy who had the best contract in Major League Baseball history. Who was that?
Bobby Bonilla.
From the Mets.
Bobby Bonilla.
Bonilla.
Yeah.
His agent should go in the Hall of Fame for that contract.
Yes.
And yet, here's the funny thing: we talk about Bobby Bonilla Day and every July 1st and everything like that.
Yeah.
With inflation being the way it is, $1 million is not worth as much as it used to be. So, in some bizarre way, the Mets are making out just because inflation keeps rising.
Oh, it's not. Oh, okay. I'll take it then. I'll take the $1 million. It's not what it used to be. That's fine. I'll take it. Give it to me then. If it's not.
Well, my point is that $1 million in like say 2000 versus $1 million now, and cost of living is pretty much doubled in that time. So it's more like equivalent of like $500,000. By 2035, it'll be like 350, 400.
The crazy part is that with when everybody makes fun of that Bonilla deal, but those deferred compensation agreements are actually commonplace in baseball now. Something like half the Nationals roster is on, including Scherzer, Zimmerman, and one of their other big stars from the World Series.
Batting 250 with a million Ks, and the population of a small country left on base,
which is something,
especially not in New York,
which is something to consider regarding the DeGrom contract, because there's still a discussion there. If he's saying he's going to opt out, he's opt out. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure if he's going to do that. But I think part of the reason he wants to opt out is that, just like JD said, a lot of his remaining contract is deferred. And he probably wants that money up front. So I wonder if Cohen would come to him and say, listen, I'll extend your contract, and all that money that's deferred, I'll give it to you up front. Because he could do it now. Unless Major League Baseball says he can't, from a labor agreement, whatever reason. But keep an eye on that.
My thing with DeGrom is, look, I get it with injuries.
Okay, Kyle, what's your work contract?
And stuff like that. But I'm sitting here. It would absolutely kill me to see DeGrom in any other jersey but a New York Mets jersey.
Sure.
For that reason, if I'm Steve, there will be no negotiations. Not one. I will hand Jacob DeGrom a blank check, paper, and a legal pad. You write down whatever number you want. You write down whatever doesn't matter. Whatever yours, Jacob. And that's it. Really, like Jake, he is so special, and what we are doing now, you can't just be like a one-off year and blow it up. You need to build something here. Let this be a sustainable team. Look at Houston. They've been forgetting the cheatings. I don't care. They've been on top for years because they've kept guys together. They've kept pitchers. They've kept keep the core together. Keep the band together. Like. That's what my thing. Not a single negotiation. Whatever you want, Jacob, you're getting. Uncle Stevie on me. That's it.
Would Uncle Stevie also break the bank for Judge just to stick it to the Yankees?
Yes,
that might make everybody's heads explode.
Here's the thing: I think Judge has a shot of going to the Mets. I don't believe it'll happen.
I don't think so either, but I can dream. I say even if he doesn't do much with the Mets,
I could dream him, but I don't want him. I
don't think the Mets need him. That's the thing.
He's identified as a Yankee. I don't.
I mean, here's the funny thing. He gambled on himself, turned down that contract, and obviously right now is probably going to be MVP unless something drastic changes. But I could see him going probably to California. I could see him going to the Dodgers. You talked about the Red Sox. I don't necessarily.
He's from the West Coast, isn't he?
Yes, he is from California. So he can go back. He can see his parents. He's very family oriented. The Dodgers would open up the bank because the Dodgers have more money than Jesus and God. So I could see him going there. I think if it was a different player, the Mets would probably, Uncle Stevie would open up the wallet just to spite the Yankees. But I think he has a limit here on what he would do, and especially with what Judge wants, which is probably a 7 or 8 year deal, I would think. minimum. And it's one of those front end things you're paying for the MVP caliber. Truth be told, if speaking from a Yankee perspective, they offered him like 210 over 7 years and he turned it down. I don't know if you go much higher than that for a guy like this.
You don't. This is also the first season that he's been healthy.
Yeah, which is
doesn't stay healthy.
Yeah. This is a massive concern on my side because of the fact that he is so prone to be injured, and a guy of that size with that frame is going to break down. 3 years from now, he is going. I'm predicting within 3 years he is going to have a season where he has 100 games on the DL. IL.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if whatever team does end up giving that boatload of money to Judge, that is going to age just like the Robbie Cano contract, where he might have a few good years, but between injuries and all kinds of other stuff, he will not stay healthy for that contract. I think he might have 1 or 2 more healthy years left in him, and then he will fall off a cliff fast, the way Cano did. Whether or not he turns to PEDs to try and cover up the difference remains to be seen.
Because his feet and his head need to get a little bit larger.
Yeah, and just one last note on and one last thing on the deferred compensation as we were going back and forth on that. I'm pretty sure the Braves are still paying Bruce Sutter from the 80s. So he wasn't even the first one. So Bonilla wasn't even the first one of those bad deals.
Oh, yeah. So they're saying online that, Griffey Jr. is still being paid.
Yeah.
Danny Ramirez is still being paid.
There's a lot of them. It's commonplace now.
Yeah.
Manny was playing over in Australia or something just recently. He's 49 years old. He's still playing out there in some like foreign leagues.
Yeah.
So who do you think is going to get to the 50 million mark first, Ohtani or DeGrom?
DeGrom.
Yeah,
Ohtani is Omoshidoi, but he's not. He will break down. He will become a one-note player at some point.
Ohtani, I've said this before. Within 2 to 3 years, he will have to pick one or the other.
I agree with that.
Like the two for a year or 2.5 years, you can get away with it, but that you can't nowadays. You can't do that consistently for years and years and years.
All right.
Jimmy
So
Ware, what is he, like 55 years old now?
He's got to be 60.
No, he's not 60.
He's got to be like 60.
He was 49 when he pitched his final season, I think, with Colorado. I happened to look him up the other day for whatever reason, and that was about 10 years ago. So he's probably about 60.
Yeah, he's about 60.
Yeah. Satchel Paige is like, holy crap. But yeah, we got about 2 minutes left. So real quick, basically, when it comes to the MLS, NYCFC is in some deep trouble at this point. They have lost now 2. They've gotten 1 point in 3 road games. They're playing tomorrow at Red Bull Arena against Charlotte, which is going to be interesting because it's not a home stadium; it's their rival team stadium. Meanwhile, JD, who covers the Philadelphia Union, are quietly running away with that division and are developing a healthy lead and a hunger to basically avenge what happened last season. Any real quick thing on that?
Yeah, so I believe the gap is now 5 points that the Union are clear of second place Montreal now. Now that Montreal has passed NYC for second place.
Yeah.
So you have Montreal second, NYC third, and I believe the Red Bulls fourth, and then the log jam, and then the log jam behind them. Where there's about 5 teams all within a few points of each other. So if the Union can keep doing what they're doing and separate from that pack, then they're in pretty good shape. NYC has some bigger issues, though.
Yeah, and I don't know in this case if it's going to get fixed. It'll be interesting to see what happens tomorrow. If they lose and they lose badly, I think it's full-out panic mode for that team. All right.
The only thing I'm going to say is that I'm a Red Bull fan. So now NYFC is going to feel the pain of what Jet and Giant fans have to deal with when they have to share one stadium.
The fans are actually okay with it because Ronnie and Tati got on the championship last year, both of which are gone, which I think is part of the problem. So yeah. So anyway, we got to wrap this up at this point. Commercial break time, and we get in trouble if we don't go to that point. So, Sammy, I appreciate it. You've been awesome. I absolutely am grateful as heck. I'd love to see this again if you can do it.
Anytime.
Love it. We will make that happen then. Brandon, thank you for coming in here from, I think, from somewhere in Maine. I believe JD referred to it as Moose Scrotum, Maine.
Yes, Moose Scrotum, Maine.
I'm so saving that.
Right in the middle of the state.
And JD, thank you as always. I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Tonight,
Thanks again for the invite.
No, glad to. Tonight, 7 p.m., Tales from the Film Set. We're breaking down the VFX issues that are going on with She-Hulk and why basically the VFX editors on old Disney Plus are tired of working 100 hours a week for about 7 straight months in a row. So for me, I'm Scott, Mr. Sammy D, Mr. JD Walker, Mr. Brandon K. Thanks as always. Tune in. Stay awesome.
Thank you.